Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. Quick intro on myself, I'm Pooja. As introduced, I'm the VP of the Geo business at Haptik. What does that mean? We'll get clear in the follow-on slides, but more importantly, I'm here today to talk to you all about, of course, the talk of the hour, which is the generative AI space and what is all the work that Haptik is doing in this space, and how businesses can leverage it to improve their customer experience, drive sales, and ultimately, engagement with their customers. So quickly on Haptik, Haptik is actually a 10-year company in the conversational AI space. About 4 years ago, we got acquired by Reliance Jio Group. And today we have a dual relationship with Jio. They are our investors and they are also actually our largest customer. So we do work across the Reliance business in telco, all of Reliance retail, health services, now financial services, IoT, and you name it, right? No secret that they have a presence in a lot of verticals. So that's the part of the business that I oversee and the investor relations. And then apart from Jio, of course, we have a lot of other customers, both in India and internationally. This is not an exhaustive list, of course. This is a few of our marquee customers. To call out a few, we've been doing a lot of work with Paytm in the last year in the Gen AI space. Kotak Life, I'll be showing you all a couple demos in the next few slides. So Kotak Life is one of them. Paisa Bazaar is doing a lot of their marketing automation and their WhatsApp solutions with us. So that's a few to name a few. Of course, a lot of the Jio ones I mentioned are here as well. Jio Mart that you all must have seen, Jio Fiber, our Jio Health Hub, RF Hospital, and so forth. So yes, as I mentioned, very recently in August, Haptik actually reached their 10-year mark. But it actually still feels very much like day one in the company. And the reason for that is the huge disruption that has come in the conversational AI space in the last year through Gen AI, right? So I was just telling someone yesterday, we were at another event, how, having been with the company for 4 years, a lot of the things that we've been talking about in the NLP space, be it human-like conversations, multilingual, truly intelligent bots, right? These topics are not new. They've been around for a while. But the real disruption, and actually as someone in this space, talking to customers, selling these solutions, today as I stand in front of you, I feel a lot more confident about these claims thanks to Gen AI. I think in the last year, the space has really kind of come into its own with these algorithms. And Haptik actually has been working with the OpenAI and GPT algorithms since 2.5 years, but even them, so GPT-2, 2.5, all of those we've been working with, but the real coming together has happened, I would say very honestly, in the last year with GPT 3.5, which is what powered ChatGPT that we all know, and now the newer models with GPT-4. So today, my intention is to show you all what all we're doing with Gen AI, show some demos, and then if we have time, we'll take questions. So very quickly, just to set the context before we go into Gen AI, what the industry stalwarts are talking, right? Even Bill Gates has recently tweeted about how the whole GPT revolution is kind of one of the biggest tech events that has happened in the last year. Similarly, I'll kind of go through these really fast, but Jason is a very reputed kind of software influencer in the Silicon Valley, and he recently did a bunch of tweets. I'll kind of skim through them quickly, sorry, in the interest of time, but did a lot of tweets on how OpenAI is actually disrupting the whole contact center space. And that is kind of what led us at Haptik also in the last year to really reimagine what OpenAI means and Gen AI means for us, right? Is it a competitor? Is it a threat? Is it a partner? And what that means for businesses like ours, right? And what we have concluded, and as you will see in the course of my presentation, is that in fact it is a huge enabler and it's a strong partner for us. And we have actually repackaged a lot of our offering to be Gen AI first now, and we call it Contact, which is everything that a business needs for your contact with your customer. Of course, a huge part of that is your contact center operations, but even over and above contact center operations, even top of funnel things like how do you acquire a customer, how do you engage with a customer, how do you sell on chat, and then of course post sales, which is your entire contact center world. So this is kind of how we ended up post that packaging our products. So contact is everything related to any customer interaction and how you bring Gen AI at various points in those interactions. And the way of doing that could be through automated bots, which is where the AI assistant comes in, and I'll show you where in AI assistant we have Gen AI. And then also in the agent world, right? So even with Gen AI today, most bots have 80–85% accuracy, and what I mean by that is in 80 to 85% of cases, they actually end up answering the customer's query. In the other 15 to 20% cases, it may not be answered by the bot either because it was not trained for it, either because it didn't understand it, or in some cases brands choose that for these cases we actually don't want automated, we want a human to answer. So in all those cases, we then transfer into the agent world, and there's a bunch of automation within the agent world also, which will get covered in the co-pilot, and of course nothing is complete without analytics. So that's the entire contact package, and outside of that we have interact, which is your entire marketing funnel, WhatsApp campaigns and so forth. In today's presentation I'll cover mainly contact given the topic. So yes, let's get right into it. This, you can think of this as kind of the executive summary slide. As I was saying, we have AI assistants, which is the bot part. We have co-pilot, which is everything to do with making your agents more efficient and productive, because ultimately if your agents are good at their job, they will provide the right experience to your end users, and then the analytics to aid better insights. So yes, let's jump right into it, right? First and foremost, why exactly do we even need Gen AI, right? What problems is it actually solving for businesses? So in the pre-Gen AI world, these are the top problem statements with existing bots that don't have GPT, right? The answers are super rigid. So what we used to do in the old world is, if any business comes to us saying, you know, I would like a chat bot, we'll speak to them, understand their business model, understand their problem statements. Let's say it's a customer support problem that they want to solve. We'll identify usually the top call drivers in their call center. Let's say we take 4 to 5 use cases. Usually we then ask them, what are your SOPs for these use cases? Let's take a retail customer who wants to deal with a delay in delivery use case. We usually ask them, okay, what are your SOPs? What are your steps you usually follow? And then we actually think through the customer journeys. We define these journeys. We try to predict what are all the follow-up questions a customer could ask within this use case. And then we try to build that out, right? So in some sense, it is rigid, right? It's not dynamic, and the success and quality of your solution is entirely dependent on your ability to predict these questions and then in some sense code these answers, right? So they are very rigid. There is limited context retention, which means that you know, if a customer came and chatted with you a week ago and he's come again today on either the same channel or a different channel, the context is not necessarily retained, which makes for a bad experience. They're not fluid. We claim it's you know, human-like conversations, but NLP had not got to a point until now where they're truly human-like in nature. Lot of time spent on training, right? That's the number one question when anyone comes to me for a chatbot. How much time, once we have discussed the scope, how much time will it be delivered in, right? Typically the delivery timelines were way longer than we are seeing with GPT. Very poor handling of out of scope, right? Which means if a bot is not trained to handle a certain query and a user comes and asks, typically traditional bots just break and say, sorry, I didn't follow, which doesn't come across as very intelligent, right? So with GPT, I'll show you in the demo how bot breaks are also way more intelligent and actually helpful to the end user versus, sorry, we can't help you, right? And then finally, agent operations, super manual, and we'll see a lot of the disruption that's come on the agent side as well. So with GPT, all of these, what has changed is rigid answers, are becoming more dynamic responses. You'll see that in the demo, but what it essentially means is it is not hard-coded, which means the solution is intelligent enough. It trains on a bunch of source data that you give us. This source data could be your website data, it could be blogs that your brand has written, it could be PDF files, it could also be integrations into other third-party systems. For example, what is the status of my order is probably an integration into your order management system. So they're a lot more dynamic, they're not hard-coded, we're no longer doing pre-planned flows and things like that. The solution, the AI models themselves do the intent detection and figure out the right answer based on a bunch of different variety of sources that it's trained on. Much better memory retention, which means it will remember your interactions across channels, right? If you had called a week ago or you had chatted but the ticket is still open and you've reached out, it will identify that and tell you, hi Pooja, we see you have an open ticket. Is that what you're reaching out for, or can we help you with something else? So much better context and memory, much more human-like. It trains on unstructured data. And again, what that means is your website data, PDF files, in case of a commerce bot, catalog data, a lot of variety. It doesn't necessarily, in the past, when customers come to us, we would ask in very specific formats and structured, we need it like this. If we're taking your catalog data, we need it in a certain format, but with GPT, you can really don't have to put in any work in fitting into a certain format. You can just give it to us and it trains on it. Better contextual understanding and co-pilots, as you'll see in the demo. So yes, starting with the bot side of the world, one thing that we have is what we calling it AI-powered web Q&A. Essentially, this is a feature that again takes all your unstructured data and can just simply answer any FAQs. So in the past, again, if a business would come to us and say, one of the things we want to cover in the bot is answering FAQs, we would need it in a certain structure, we would have to train the bot on each and every FAQ. Now, none of that. You just come and give us your raw data, whether it is, again, blogs or wherever the answers to those questions, maybe you just come and give us those files, and within a day, it just, in fact, it takes less than a day to train, but within a day, we just give you the whole solution, and that's your FAQ bot, which means now a customer can ask any question, and as long as the answer for that question was within the source files that you gave, it straight up just, will kind of create the right answer with the right human language, all of it which ChatGPT is trained to do. And these are multi-turn conversations, which means on these FAQs, you can also ask follow-up questions, and they're going to be able to answer them. And easy access to information for your end customers. The second part is AI-powered bots. Here we are seeing essentially two big categories. One is bots that sell products, have a lot of advisory, product recommendation, product discovery. And the second category, of course, is your traditional support bots, which automate your customer service, includes FAQs and includes things like, I'll show you the Kotak Life Insurance bot, which is a support bot. We answer things like, can you make filling my premium easier? How do I activate autopay? And bunch of FAQs and support related queries. So let's get right into the demo. I know I've mentioned them a lot of times. So let me show you, we have two demos. This is a Tira demo, and this is a sales product recommendation top of funnel use cases type of demo. Tira, as I'm sure a lot of you all now know, is a online beauty brand. They also have offline presence, and they came to us. Their main ask was, we want a beauty advisor. They were very clear. In fact, they were like, we don't even want to sell. If a user asks for products, of course, there is product recommendation and discovery, but over and above that, they actually wanted to do pure play beauty advising, because that is the brand that they stand for. Advising is a big part of their go-to market. And so we built a bot for them on a bunch of blog data and beauty best practices, advisor best practices that they gave us. Right now, they have an extensive team of human advisors doing this advising, and then they wanted to replace those with this bot. So this is what we've built for them. I hope, I think they were having some issues with the, there we go. in this case, a user has come knowing what they want, which is a lipstick. So you can see that then they showed products because they asked for a specific product, it retained the context, and it also gave a suggestion. I'm sorry, this is going a bit fast, but they asked, can you suggest? So in the suggestion case, the bot has actually built enough information to be able to advise, because that was what it was taught to do. And then it can also do things like compare brands, right? So what happens is the bot has been taught that, you know, you are a bot for Tira, right? So if someone asks about Nykaa, how do you then bring, or a competitor for that matter, how do you bring the conversation back to Tira? So that control is been given to this brand that ultimately, because that is, I'll come to this part next, but that is a huge issue with why Tira can't directly go to OpenAI and build this out, because OpenAI APIs by default don't allow that kind of control. I think in the Gen AI world, the biggest thing is control. How do brands influence you know, that brand sanctity, and that is something that we have been able to build with our algorithms on top. So this solution is built as a combo of Haptik proprietary algorithms and OpenAI, and which is where some of those layers of control have been built on top, which brings the conversation back to Tira. And then to show you a support demo, this is Kotak Life Insurance. And this one is a FAQ plus customer support type of bot. So this is like an information being given, more like FAQ, a follow-up question. Some product discovery where it retained the context of exactly what you were looking for. Overall, you know, now if you see life for NRI is a super, it can mean anything. It's a super vague question, but it understood that the context there is insurance, because that's what the customer started the conversation with. So yes, before contact, this is how we used to build bots. As I said, we used to anticipate the entire flow, the whole journey, and this is a snapshot of our internal bot building tool. You can see how complex it is. With GPT, this is how simple it is. Simple nodes, and everything is auto-trained using OpenAI. So you can imagine the bot building effort and the time it takes to take these things live is much less. It's much more accurate, and it's much more human-like in its conversation. This is just a summary of everything I've pointed out so far. The bot breaks are much smarter, as I was saying. So if today a customer asks something, it does not say, sorry, I didn't understand you, or sorry, I can't answer that. It will say, you know, this is what I can do for you. For this query, reach out here, or this is another document you can access and it will take you out, but it will not just kind of leave you hanging in that sense. Lot of API integrations, even in the Kotak Life case, if a customer asks, can also, we didn't have this, but it can also ask account specific things like, what is my premium, when is my next premium due, and then it will go into a third party system and actually give you an answer very specific to you. And I'll quickly go through this because I think we're running out of time. On the agent side, we have our own proprietary agent chat tool, which has a bunch of Gen AI features built in. To name a few, it does sentiment analysis. It will give you a GPT-powered summary. So if a user has chatted with a bot and then the conversation has come to an agent, it will tell you exactly what the context is. So agent doesn't have to spend time reading the chat before going back to user. So their handling time gets reduced. The sentiment is there, so if it's an agitated user, automatically the chat will go to a supervisor instead of going to an agent who then will transfer to a supervisor. There's also grammar checking for agent, there's auto suggestions of replies for an agent, so they don't have to type the whole thing out. All of it ultimately reducing the handling time, improving the language that the agent is talking in, and making for a better customer experience. Just some more screenshots around the agent portal, sentiment analysis, summary, all the tags, user information coming in so they don't have to look, it's right there available up front. It's also omni-channel in nature, so agents can see, if a chat agent can see if the same user had called a week ago and there is an open ticket or whatever the context of that conversation was. So you can see all the different channels. We have obviously web, app, on chat, calling, WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, and now even RCS is coming up. Yes, some more screenshots, auto suggestions of responses for an agent so they don't have to type this. So it actually understands the context of the conversation and gives you a reply beforehand. So there's even that much less thinking that an agent now needs to do. Typing suggestions based on the tone. Yes, and analytics, I think, again, Haptik's proprietary tool where they have these analytics built in. It comes with the contact package. Yeah, I think one last thing, and we'll wrap up. This is the most important slide, I would say, in the whole thing, which is what is stopping a brand like Tira or Kotak Life to just go directly to OpenAI, integrate with their APIs and get this up and running, right? Why do we need business service providers like Haptik? Is the number one challenge with OpenAI or any LLM models today is you can't control them, right? By default, there is a concept called hallucination, and overall they do not allow for a brand bias. That is where you need companies like Haptik that have worked in the space for 2.5 years to actually build that control. So in the Tira demo you saw when they asked about Nykaa, we were able to bring the conversation back to Tira without being offensive or without kind of being controversial about it. So that control aspect is key for most brands today. Data privacy, of course, right? So we have a additional layer we've built on top of OpenAI, which is our PII data. So any PII data or any info that customer doesn't or brand doesn't want can be masked before it goes to the LLM models. And also we have opted out of OpenAI using any of this info for retraining their model, which is also something brands are always concerned about. So that's been taken care of. On the monitoring side, there's a lot of prompt leaking that happens, so we've built models on top to avoid that. And similarly, with Constitution, you see, right, the most popular online course today is prompt engineering. So how do you actually train a bot to do all the things you did? They don't come default by just plugging into an OpenAI API. You actually have to teach it that do not give medical advice, do not, if a customer asks about a competitor, what do you do? So all of that prompt engineering and training the model is still a big part which doesn't come by default with the OpenAI APIs, and which is where you need a brand like Haptik that has been in the space and built that expertise. And I think the biggest thing that's not covered here is, of course, the cost. I mean, a cost of an interaction that's GPT powered is in multiples higher than a normal one. So with Haptik, we have figured a way to use our proprietary models, and then as a second fallback, GPT 3.5, which is much cheaper, and then as a final fallback, GPT 4, right? We're not using GPT 4 for every single thing that you saw in the demo, which makes it way more cost efficient. Yeah, I think that's the end of it. If how to get, these are some Haptik differentiators, just the fact that we've been working with Geo, which does like millions of transactions in a month with us, both on the sales and support side. So we've been for scale 10 plus years. We've been working with OpenAI for 3 years now. So just some differentiators of Haptik. And finally, you know, I think we've run out of time, but we are here outside at the stalls. If you all have any questions, I'll be happy to take them there. Sorry, we couldn't do questions. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pooja. I would like to now invite Hemant Purohit, CEO Parahit, on the dais to do the honor.